Hi everyone, I'm Emma.
And I'm Dominique. We run Yellow Door Collective, a full-service marketing agency based in Cape Town, South Africa. Welcome to our podcast, Life Behind the Yellow Door.
When we met almost a decade ago, we had no idea what was in store for us. But we soon realized that common values and aspirations are a solid basis for a partnership.
In this podcast, we'll share some of our journey as entrepreneurs and new generation agency owners in South Africa. What really happens behind the yellow door. We hope to inspire you with honest and authentic conversations about running an agency, the life of being an entrepreneur, and featuring chats with the people who have shaped our world.
Thanks for listening in. Dom and I are really looking forward to getting stuck into the second episode of our podcast. We recorded our pilot episode about 2 weeks ago and shared a bit of our story and a bit about ourselves. So if you missed that, please head over to iTunes or Stitcher. I think let's delve into what we're going to do today. We'd like to unpack the multiple hats that we wear as business owners. I think it's something that anyone who runs a business or manages a team will be able to relate to, and hopefully we can share a few things we've learned along the way.
So when we first started, it was just the three of us, you, me, and Ash, doing pretty much everything in the business, whether it was social media writing to doing the finances to meeting the clients, making the coffee. Everybody chipped in. And so now we started kind of as jack of all trades, and we've now had to really specialize into things that we actually do well and divide up the talent among everyone. And I think growing as a person over the years and knowing what you're good at is important, but also to not allow yourself to do everything because you do burn out. So, what is it that you have learned about yourself, and where do you find yourself in a role now?
I think something that I learned is, and it came from doing the Gallup Strength Finder assessment, which I'm sure we'll dedicate a whole episode to. But one of my strengths is activation, and that's getting things started. So I think a lot of the roles we've defined for me are around that. And one of them is new business development. So with that, we realized, 18 months ago, that we needed a more focused attention on attracting the right type of clients. We've always been lucky to get word of mouth business, but to really actively look for clients. And I think it's really taught me a lot. The first one is patience, which you will laugh at because it's something I had very little of when we started Yellow Door. It's taught me to be a lot more courageous. It's scary putting yourself out there and believing in yourself and believing in your team, even if they're completely up to the job, to go out there and say, we're the best agency for the job. And we've really refined our offering to the point that I do have that confidence and that courage. And it also allows me to play to one of my other strengths, which is ideation. So I get to come up with new ideas all the time with that hat on, which I guess feeds into my second hat that I wear, which is leading strategy sessions. So Yellow Door offers a range of different workshops, working with startups, businesses that want to rebrand, agencies, other agencies that want to collaborate, artists, a whole lot of things. And I guess the hat that I wear there is one where I have to think on my feet and be really creative and just continue to learn and find ways to adapt our offering. So I think those are the two that suit my personality best. I think there's a whole bunch more, but what I love about being in our partnership is that some of the roles you play enable me to do those things. So Dom, maybe you can share your kind of role of being a team manager and leading our team on a sort of day-to-day basis.
Yeah, so I wasn't always the team manager. I started out doing quite a lot of web development somehow. And you were the one that managed the team. And so now I've kind of taken over that role. And I guess it was quite a transition for me to switch from being very much sort of back office, and I did obviously deal a lot with clients and still had all my other hats, but becoming the person that the team was going to rely on was really quite a different role for me. And I do really enjoy it now. And what I love is just being able to be that person that someone will come to for help and be able to understand what's going on in the team all the time and know that what's going on is my doing and our doing. As a team, we are helping people to grow their businesses. And so I want to be able to know that that's the bigger goal at the end of the day.
And it really plays into your strength of includer.
Yeah.
Which is a nice one.
Bit of a mother hen, I guess. Like to make sure everyone is involved.
And I think we also had to learn the difference between managing and leading. So when Dom took over my role, I had to really learn to step back, not step on her toes and let her manage. But what I still get to do is lead. So I'm involved on certain projects or certain team development sort of activities where I get to start to be a leader and I guess learn a new hat with that skill. And it's something we still get to do together.
Yeah, I still bring you in on a lot of the high level things. I know that I watch pretty much everything that goes on in the office, but when there's something that needs to be discussed as a partnership, then I bring you in, and that's when we kind of have our high level discussions. But on a day-to-day basis, there's a lot that goes on that it doesn't need to be discussed as a partnership. So that's kind of how we separate out those tasks.
We got some great advice from a client of ours called Kevin Flanagan, who's going to be joining an upcoming episode. A client and friend who said, as business partners, write things down, meet every week, and actually have a list and action points, which we do every Friday. And you have conversations making coffee and in the car, but to just have that sort of list of understanding each other's hats and how you can add value, I think has been really useful for us. We often sort of look at each other like, are we really going to fit this chat in on a Friday afternoon? But it's always worth it.
Yeah. So things that I also love about managing the team, a lot of it, you can kind of separate it out into HR or other roles that have big names. But to be honest, for me, it's just about making sure that everyone gets the support they need in the team. So whether that's making sure that they get their time off or actually take their leave, but also making sure that when people do take leave, then the rest of the team also is able to cope without them. Because in a small team, it's important to make sure that we have someone to cover the role of someone else who's not there. And that's quite a big distinction from a big company or a corporate. There's not the opportunity to for someone to just step in. Sometimes there are going to be times when it's a bit scary when someone's gone on leave. Yeah. So HR is quite a big role, I guess, in making sure that everybody has what they need.
We ran a workshop last week for a client that we asked them for feedback on how it went. And he said, I feel like the yellow door really is open. Mm-hmm. And it was such a lovely thing to hear, because I think it's such an important part of how you manage the team is your door is always open, and mine too when I'm there. Mm-hmm. But having that open space, I think is important when you don't have a dedicated HR person. We also do something called one-on-ones, where we take our team or two members of the team, go out the office, have coffee or go for a walk and chat. And it's just a space, again, to bring up something that's not necessarily task related. It could be how to improve a process in the office or how to get on the same page as a colleague who's got a different perspective. And that's something we've done also for a couple of years, and it's become a big part of the kind of yellow door way.
Yeah. And there are also things that aren't great about having to manage a team, things like having to give warnings or call people out on things that aren't acceptable in our culture as yellow door. And it's unfortunately, it's not a great thing to have to do, but unfortunately one of those things that a leader has to do at some point, especially if even the little things, if they are left unsaid or they carry on without noticing, then employees do end up not knowing where the line is. And so that is one of the things I don't enjoy about my job, but what I have to do.
And when you get better at, the more you have to do it.
Yeah.
Murray, our leadership coach, always talks about spaghetti boundaries. And I think it's just such a great expression because you know exactly what it means. I don't need to explain it, but we try and get that across to our team is set your own boundaries and make sure they're aligned to the yellow door values. And then hopefully there's less of those conversations.
True, yes.
And what about the kind of finance side? I think, Dom, you have had more of a role in that. I've definitely helped more in the last year because it's tied into my new business development role. But I think over the last 5 years, you've really had to oversee that side of it.
Yeah, I think that is one of the things that makes me happy is spreadsheets and logic and a lot of, and I wouldn't say I do enjoy the number side of things, but I think I just enjoy things to be in their boxes and making sure everything's in line, and finance kind of does that for you. And we've always used the tools available to us. So we started out on FreshBooks, and now we moved to Xero, and we use those tools so that we don't have to rely necessarily on accountants. We do have expert opinions, and we do have people who help us with our books and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, as a business owner, you really have to take charge of your own finances. You can't just let someone do them and then not really know where you are. So I kind of take pride in the fact that I have a finger on it at all times. And, you know, if you ask me what's our bank balance looking like, I can tell you. And I think that's important. Well, I know that's important. And that sometimes gets lost in the the when we have too much going on. It can be something that people forget about. Things that we've always been strict on are making sure that things get invoiced for. So it's very easy to do the work and forget that you need to send out that invoice in order to get paid,
and to send it with projects before, for example, a website goes live. It's a nice way to get the client to pay on time, and you know that they've signed off on the project, they're happy, they pay, it goes live. So it's kind of a process to it as well. But I think it was probably only a year or two ago that we really started looking at the bigger picture with finances and looking at forecasting and cash flow and what the important numbers mean. So like you said, at a glance, at any time, you know what's happening. And I do too, which I think is key to planning and strategy and looking at how we scale our business.
Yeah. One of the things about the entrepreneurial journey and wearing multiple hats is really just learning about yourself and the journey you have to go on to improve yourself in a way, but also understand yourself so that you know where you are going to and where your strengths lie. I mean, we've had, like you talked about, the strengths test, that's one thing, but you also have to apply that to really understand what that means for you, because it is different for everyone. And I know that we've both been on quite a journey to get to where we are now already, and we have plenty more to learn. But what do you feel has been your journey that you've been on?
I think something I found challenging has been managing my personal ambition and what we need to get done or what's possible at the time. And it's something, Dom, you've definitely helped me to do. I think personal development and team development go hand in hand, but they're so different. So for me, personal development is having lunch with a mentor that inspires me and helps us take our business to the next level. And then team development could be something maybe we learned 5 years ago, but remembering how important it is to share that lesson. And I love how our team appreciate that. They really show their appreciation and say it when we take the time to teach them, whether it's a skill or more of a life lesson. And I love that we do things like climb Lion's Head or go for happy hour drinks after work, because I think a lot of those conversations happen there rather than a structured conversation around a boardroom table.
Yeah, but we also have those sessions where we teach each other stuff, not necessarily us teaching them, but we have learning sessions on a Friday, and we sometimes bring in people from outside to teach our team something. And we, like you say, forget how much we've learned and forget that we have that knowledge. And it just takes a session of just half an hour to share something interesting that could help them on their journey to learning.
Absolutely. And we also have a team challenge every second month where we come up with a theme or a topic together, and then each person gets to present back. So it improves their research, their presenting, but it also, I always learn something because it's a trend that's new or something that we're still figuring out how to incorporate it into our business or for our clients. So I think that's a great way to bring in development as well.
One of the challenges we face is managing people who are the same age as us, or slightly older, or quite a lot younger. But it is quite difficult to find that balance between the professional and the friend relationship, because a lot of our employees we actually would be friends with on a normal in normal life, but you do have to find that line and make sure that there is a sense of professionalism at all times, and just make sure that you don't fall into that trap of thinking that you can treat them as your friend because they're there to do a job, and that they want to actually be able to do that job in a way, in an environment that is there for them to be able to do that job.
Absolutely. Ant always says that you shouldn't take things personally. And I like the way he says it, because if you're giving someone constructive feedback, it's not about them, it's about their way they're doing their job. And I think everyone's on board with that now, which really helps.
Yeah, absolutely it does.
So to wrap up, I thought we could just share a few tips and things we've implemented to help us manage the different hats. My favorite is starting the day with a priority list. I actually mentioned this at the office earlier because I didn't do one this morning, and I was like a headless chicken trying to do multiple things. And eventually I just sat down and did my list, and I put my top 3 things to achieve today rather than the full list of tasks I need to do.
Yeah, and that leads into just staying agile. Like that for me, unfortunately, doesn't always work that well because a lot of my priorities get usurped by other priorities. So it is about just staying agile and just making sure that you can adapt if things come your way. And I'm one to talk because I do find myself being frustrated when things aren't under control. But I have had to learn that everything needs to be fluid sometimes, and you have to roll with it.
And be able to delegate, which is something we've both got a lot better at over the years, is to play to your strengths and your skill set and let everyone else do the rest. Mm-hmm. We also, I think, need to remember to celebrate the small wins as well as the big ones, because it can be really tough running a business, and there are days where you need to actually just appreciate something that's happened rather than maybe the 3 things that went wrong.
Very good advice. And we're very big goal setters at Yellow Door. We set goals in our reviews. We set goals monthly and even daily sometimes, just to try and make sure that we're always moving forward and upwards.
And keeping track of the balance between the tasks and the bigger picture.
Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned the fact that I balance out your ambition there, and I had to laugh because when we met, I barely ate any green vegetables,
if any.
My friends will agree. And now I walk past your desk, you're the one eating leftover pizza, and I'm the one eating broccoli and kale salad. And I thought that was very funny. But on a serious note, my journey, I think, has been to start to be a little bit more calm and focused. And I think specifically now, as managing the team, I feel that I have to bring a sense of serenity to the office, because in a digital agency, things are so chaotic all the time and you can easily get swept up into the chaos. And for me, my sort of go-to now is just having a time to stop and breathe and think about what needs to happen. And the breathing exercises are just one of the things I've brought into my daily routine in the mornings. And also to begin a meeting, sometimes we now do sort of 3 minutes of just focus breathing, just to try and get everyone in the room.
And it really works. I think we start those meetings in such a calm, sort of productive mindset.
Yeah, and I've really enjoyed that journey of learning about myself and learning that things can actually be a little bit more in order and a little bit more calm. Spot the trend. So in Spot the Trend today, I have something that's not really that new, but which I think continues to be a trend, and that is Instagram TV, or IGTV as people call it. It's actually launched almost a year ago. I think it was June 2018 where it actually started. And yeah, I think that it's something that businesses are starting to get on board with, and something we have been encouraging, but it does take quite a lot of effort to make a video that's worthy of showing on your Instagram feed. So Instagram TV, it kind of allows you to show an insight into your world, and it's not like a normal video because it can be up to 10 minutes. So there's two ways of doing it. You can either do a live video, so say you're at an event or one of those, or you can do a recorded video that's a bit longer, and that allows you to showcase that video on Instagram TV, kind of like a little episode or a series. And I think that's where we've always said video is huge, and I think this is where people are starting to actually watch videos on a more regular basis, other than on YouTube or on Netflix.
Cool. So my challenge is to look at how we can incorporate that more into our business. Is that right?
Yes.
So I think for me, something that is a big part of the Yellow Door philosophy and approach is to creating content is digital storytelling. We focus on it from a sort of written perspective and what the images we create say. But I'd really love to do more, as you said, like behind the scenes, letting people know what the true essence of a brand is and what it stands for. So we often say if a customer had a choice between two products that were the same price point, what is a differentiator? And it's that building brand loyalty, it's understanding what the brand stands for. And I think people are put off by video because they think that it's expensive or they think that it's complex to put together, but there's such simple ways to do it. I like what you said about it being sort of a series or episodes. If you were building up to a product launch, you could do the behind the scenes from the idea through to the execution. If you were doing an event, it's not just filming the event, but who makes it happen? What goes into creating an event? So I think it's, in a way, similar to what we want to do with this podcast, where we want to share behind the scenes what happens behind the Yellow Door. I think brands can have a better sense of what their customers want to know about and learn to share that.
Yeah, I think for me, the appeal of Instagram TV is really that it's not expected that your video is made with the best camera and lighting and set, but rather that it's a real insight into your company or into your brand, and it gives your readers or your watchers, viewers, a real sense of what it's like in the business that you're in. And I know a lot of influencers use it and they do it very well. And I think a lot of brands, I mean, it's also possible to not necessarily do video yourself, but rather to get your influencers to do videos about your products, and you are then able to use that content on your own IGTV feed. And yeah, like I said, just not thinking of it as a whole shoot, but rather as, more spontaneous content.
And what brands do you follow on IGTV, or can you think of an example off the top of your head of one people could go and look at for inspiration?
I have a small obsession with Jennifer Garner. And she has these great cooking little episodes on IGTV. Not exactly a brand, but I think that she actually does have a brand. Yeah, she is a brand, but she actually also has a brand of organic food that she often promotes. But I just love the fact that she is so natural and herself on her feed. And I think it's just so appealing to me. And I think to a lot of people, that's what they want to see. They don't want to see the makeup and the lights. They want to see how real people actually live. And that's why it's inspiring for me.
Your questions answered. Thank you to everyone that sent in questions. It's great to hear what people want to know about. And what we're going to do is tackle 2 or 3 questions in each episode. So first up, Justine has asked us whether we think open plan or private offices work better. And it's one I really had to think about. At Yellow Door, we have an open plan office, so that's what we know. But Dom and I actually used to have our own office, so I can sort of comment on both sides. And I think what works best is an open plan office, as long as there are separate rooms, whether it's a meeting room or a boardroom, that people can go into if they need to focus or they need to make a call that might be confidential. And then a few tips for what works for us in a shared space. One is to have a chunk of the day where there are no interruptions. So everyone knows from 10:30 till 12 that you focus on your most important tasks for the day. And another tip, which would also work for private offices, is to have a morning scrum. So to know what other people's priorities are and make sure you're all on the same page.
Yeah, and to add to that, we're busy moving into new office space, and so I'm trying to accommodate everybody's requests in terms of what works best for them. And I do think that it is important to take that into account, whether someone would prefer to sit near the door or away from the door, facing a window, away from the window. Lots of people have different ideas of what their ideal space is, but especially in an open plan office, you need to at least feel comfortable in your space. So we've tried to be as accommodating as possible whenever we can be. And another thing to note is just how I know a lot of people, including us, use Slack and other instant messaging services in the office. And that does mean that you're constantly connected to each other, or you're constantly available to chat. But that does mean that sometimes you get interrupted in your focus time. And it's just being aware of when people are actually just trying to get on with their work, and they can obviously turn their instant messaging off. But if someone does have their headphones in, they're probably trying to ignore the world. So leave them be.
Yeah. And then, Dom, maybe you can start answering Sam's question, which was asking what the scariest moments in our business journey have been so far. And also she wanted to know whether there are any turning points or defining moments.
Wow. I wouldn't say I get scared of things, except spiders, maybe. So I would rather use the word daunted or overwhelmed, and there have been plenty of those moments over the years. The bigger decisions are always daunting. For example, moving offices or hiring people, letting people go when it's necessary. These are all things that are big decisions that you have to mull over and really it does affect your entire business. So I think those are the moments I can pull out of our journey that I've felt the most daunted or overwhelmed. And hiring people is one of the bigger ones that have happened many times over the years. And those times have been tricky because you do worry about how things are going to turn out, if you're making the right choice with the person that you're hiring. And the culture of our business is so important that we really feel we have to keep that in mind when we're hiring someone. It's not just about the skill, but are they going to fit in with the rest of the team and with us and how we run things. So those have been moments which I would say have definitely been turning points or defining moments. And they haven't always worked out as well. So we've had to sometimes make the call to put our the culture of our team first. And that means sometimes it doesn't work out with someone that we thought would be great. And that's been really difficult to stomach, especially as sometimes we do really like the person or have enjoyed having them as part of the team. But yeah.
And that's also happened with clients where it's not the right fit for whatever reason, and it's a tough thing to face. It's often tricky for cash flow, but it's the right decision for both parties and especially for our business in the long term. And I think we've learned to deal with that and process it. I think another one for me that's always daunting is running a new workshop for a client. And it's one of those things that I'm nervous or daunted until it starts, and then it just flows, and it's such an amazing feeling. So I think it's actually good to be out of your comfort zone and do stuff that is a little bit daunting or challenging.
So those are all the questions we're going to answer today, and thank you for those. Please keep them coming. We do really enjoy finding out what people are interested in hearing. And that's it for episode 2. Thanks for listening, and chat soon. Thanks for listening to this episode of Life Behind the Yellow Door. We'd love to hear from you. So if you have questions or topics you'd like us to cover, pop us a message via our social media pages @HelloYellowDoor, and we'll do our best to answer them in upcoming episodes.